Well, good Monday morning. Welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and we have an exciting show in store for you today. First of all, it's the first day of spring, for whatever that's worth. I thought I would mention that on the program a little bit later on. We're going to be talking to Steuben County Manager Jack Wheeler, and I look forward to speaking with him because back at the early days of COVID, we talked about Friday was essentially the 3-year anniversary of when the world shut down. Well, during that time, I would talk to Jack Wheeler on a frequent basis to get updates, and you know how things have changed, but to where there was a possible spread and what the numbers were each week and the job that they were doing behind the scenes in Steuben County. So we're going to, I guess for lack of a better word, reminisce about that time, discuss how things are going in Steuben County, and of course, as we talk about the budgets in Albany, how that'll affect the residents of Steuben County. On tomorrow's program, excited, we're going to have Elisa and Sylvia from a group called ASSE, which actually stands for, I don't know where the A comes from, but stands for International Student Exchange Program. They're looking for homes for these students coming up next school year, and it's an amazing opportunity for the students, of course, and it's an amazing opportunity for the host home as well. So we're going to talk with them tomorrow, right around 7:20. On Wednesday, Chemung County Executive Chris Moss. Today we have Steuben County. On Wednesday, we'll talk Chemung County. That's the kind of program we have here. We're trying to reach everybody. And then on Thursday, Assemblyman Chris Friend will join us in the studio. So this is going to be an exciting week. We've got a few others that are in the works I can't highlight quite yet, but we'll be talking with an amazing guest every day here on Frankly Speaking. So if you know someone that you would like to have on the program, maybe ask a specific question that relates to you about your hometown, your area, you can always contact me. And I know I hit on this a lot, but I appreciate everybody who has been sending in emails, sending text. There's the email. On the text, of course, you can see that number on the bottom of the screen as well, 607-358-3131. And we've been receiving a lot of great emails, a lot of great texts. Maybe we'll get to a little bit of those, a few of those, later on in the program. So again, you can also call if you're not a texting person. That will take you to a voicemail, and you can leave a message there where I can read it later or listen to it and play it on the show tomorrow. I wanted to highlight, I didn't take pictures, which is my fault. I'm not there yet, the best at the covering the news, but we did have a fun time talking with Sheriff Allard and Chief Spalding at the coffee with the chief and the sheriff. That was on Friday at Wegmans. So Maggie Hall from Big Fox News at 10 and myself went over and had a nice chat with them. A good turnout. Everybody got a free cup of coffee, which wasn't too bad, but it was an amazing opportunity to speak to the chief here in Corning and the sheriff. So we'll try to highlight events like that for you. You know, a lot of times a politician or something like that has a town hall. We'll spread the word on that because the more active you can get in local politics, the more day-to-day change you can make. You know, we talked with Steuben County GOP Chairman Joe Sempolinski, former congressman, about how important this time of year is with petitions. I actually took out some petitions on Saturday, not the most successful petition signing event I've ever been involved in, but I appreciate everybody that answers the door the way things are going anymore, and just the unique experience to talk with your neighbors. So if you are a part of the some party, either Democrat or Republican Party, and you're taking out those petitions, kudos to you because that's how you can make a change, helping a candidate or if you yourself are a candidate. So you can contact me if you are a candidate. I'd love to have you on the program. So we've got to take a short break right off the bat. Then we're going to get to some local news, some national news, and cover as much as we possibly can. As I said, we will be talking to Steuben County Manager Jack Wheeler in just a little bit. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox broadcasting live in historic Market Street, Corning, from the Hesselson studio. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And coming up in just a little bit, we'll have your M.A. Neal Financial Services interview with Steuben County Manager Jack Wheeler. Looking forward to speaking with him. Let's go to a couple stories of the day. First of all, congratulations. I know this gets cut off a little bit in my story here, but the Democrat and Chronicle reporting that Avoca Prattsburgh winning its second straight boys basketball state title. Very impressive win on Sunday night, 70-48 over Chapel Field Christian in the Class D title. So congratulations to Avoca Prattsburgh. We're trying to start the program off on a good note. Congratulations to them on that historic and big win, because that's back-to-back for them. Not that we cover too much sports here. Now, let's go to another story here. Okay, a couple of updates from stories we brought to you last week. This does not come as a surprise. Once we had the issue with the FDIC and they said, okay, $250,000, not enough. A lot of people lost a lot of money when it comes to the Silicon Valley Bank. So we're just going to forget that rule. But they try to suggest it's not a bailout. And then they say, well, taxpayers aren't going to pay for this. But we know that the fees from your bank and everyone's bank, and we've gotten a lot of comments over this, over text and over email. But, of course, it's coming from each of our pockets. But now people like Elizabeth Warren saying, you know what, we should get rid of the $250,000 limit altogether. I don't want to say we predicted this last week, but we did. We said that once you set basically no limits, the politicians are going to love to jump on that. But here's the problem. What if you make bad investments? What if you put too much money in and you're over leveraged? Those type of things. It goes, again, this new mindset where, oh, don't worry, the government's going to bail you out. And I think that sets a very bad precedent. Elizabeth Warren saying, I think that lifting the FDIC insurance cap is a good move. But then they ask the question, well, where do we go? What if it's $2 million? What if it's $5 million? What if it's $10 million? Of course, Warren's saying, well, small businesses need to be able to count on getting their money to make payroll, to pay the utility bills. Again, this sounds like a government bailout, essentially. I don't know when we decide that we finally ran out of money and we can't keep spending the way that we do. But this is another example of once you give politicians an inch, they're going to try to take a mile. So where that final count is, it sounds like it's there is no end. There is whatever amount you had in the bank, we are going to cover. And there's a lot of fear of more bank runs as well. So I wanted to give you an update on that because I thought it was important to highlight at a time when many of us believe that we are spending too much as a country. We're too far in debt, and we'll talk about that frequently on this program, you'll see, because it affects our lives daily. And it ties in with what I brought up on Friday, which is our next story that we're going to get to in just a moment because I'm looking at my time. But this idea that we're spending so much, inflation is so high, when does China try to make that move where they become the world's superpower? And I mentioned on Friday because they're seeing a weakness here, whether it is inflation, whether it is how much we're spending, seeing a weakness there where it seems as if they are making moves to take over as a world superpower. And I'm going to highlight that in a minute when we come back. Before that, don't forget, you can contact me if you agree, if you disagree. Reach out to me there. I would love to read your comments before the program's over. And, of course, if you have any questions for Steuben County Manager Jack Wheeler, he'll be coming up in about 10 minutes, give or take. So stay with us. Right now it's time to take a short break here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on this first day of spring. Stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We have Steuben County Manager Jack Wheeler in. We're going to talk with him in just a second. First, I wanted to highlight this from last week. We were talking about China making the move to, I think, play peacemaker, as this article said, so that they can make that slow move into becoming a world superpower. So kind of reiterating what I said Friday, this from CNN, as you can see on your screen, Xi Jinping is pitching China as Ukraine peacemaker on eve of trip to Russia. So my thought is, propaganda-wise, they'll come out and say we did what America couldn't do and we ended the war in Ukraine. If that happens, again, I don't like to make predictions, but that's where I see between that and the supply chain making a move to become the world superpower, something that they have, if you look at the intelligence documents, something they've been pushing for a long time with the help of Russia. So we're going to take a break. I just wanted to get to that real quick. It's not too late to email. Let me put my contact information up real quick. So if you have any questions for Jack Wheeler, do I have it up there? Okay, there we go. Right there, email, or you can text the last minute questions to that number and to that email. So we'll be right back with the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview here on Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So stay with us. We'll be right back right here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and this is the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview with our good friend, Steuben County Manager Jack Wheeler. Good morning.
Good morning, Frank.
This is weird because I think 3 years ago I thought I'd never be able to meet you in person. We were all locked down.
We talked a lot.
We talked every week. I was talking to somebody the other day. It was amazing to me. First of all, how open you were. I mean, you would call in with all those numbers, and think of how things have changed, because you could read a list of, oh no, we saw somebody there that might have had it. Now
right.
It's all changed, but it's hard to believe it's been 3 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a time for reminiscing, remembering all of those things. This past weekend marked the 3 years of when we first met with the school superintendents on a Friday night, late Friday night, and my counterparts throughout the state were doing the same thing, saying we got to close schools because the state wasn't doing anything. The feds were kind of waiting, and there was so much concern coming. We didn't know where the cases were, and that was a wild time. And not knowing what we would be 3 years later, obviously we're in a much better place. But there was a ton of pain and suffering, and the job that you did, it was just phenomenal. Trying to get the common sense information out there, and like you said, the goal and the things that they teach you when you do classes in emergency management, communication, those sort of things, is to be open, transparent, and honest. And you were. That's what we tried to do.
And I always wondered, because we haven't talked in so long, did everybody finally catch up on sleep?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, our public health staff, I mean, God bless them. They, everyone at the county, everyone, all levels of government, obviously the hospitals, everyone just stepped up, really, really stepped up. But our public health folks especially, man, they were running ragged. We've had more than a few in that department that when they reached their years for the retirement system said, okay, I'm done, we'll catch you later. And you can't blame them.
You guys should have gave about 2-3 extra weeks of vacation for everybody.
Exactly.
Because I remember at the time, you call in and we'd be looking at the numbers, and it's kind of fascinating to look back because we were all learning on the go.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you could predict what was going to happen.
No, you couldn't, and it was trying to be as responsive as we could, listen to the guidance from the feds, from the state, but they always teach you, again, that every emergency, no matter whether it's a weather-related emergency or a pandemic, it really starts local. Not that local government's the most important thing, but we're the ones that people can get on the phone.
Exactly.
We're the ones that people can email, that people know. So when things were happening, as we talked about, frequently, especially in our nursing homes, and Albany wasn't listening,
terrifying.
We were banging our head against the wall because we're hearing it directly. They're not getting that level of information. And, to try to amplify our voice, thankfully you and others, honestly, it was the press that did that. Yeah. Once we got attention from, the New York Post, from the New York Times, then all of a sudden some changes happened.
And really, you were the first, you and a small group here in Steuben County were the first to highlight this and bring it to attention, because the nursing home was a brewing scandal that no one was really talking about.
Yeah, it was one of the craziest things that we saw, and again, the state was learning on the fly too. So I hesitate to, I think we should all learn lessons. But at the time, we were super frustrated because the state was allowing staff who were positive but asymptomatic to continue to work, and they had to wear masks and everything. But you're around the most vulnerable people. Darlene Smith, our public health director, was number one in advocating and saying, this doesn't make sense. There has to be contract nurses. There has to be other staff that we can call. We can work with you to try to find additional resources to staff it if people are positive. They shouldn't be in that building. And like you said, it took until we talked to Bernadette Hogan until she posted that in the New York Post. I'll never forget the day where she asked Governor Cuomo in his daily briefing about that, and the stunned look on his face. He didn't know what was happening. That night, they changed the policy. So, just a little bit of momentum from the ground level can really make some change. change.
Thank God. And I found just the other day, or maybe it was this weekend, that they finally relaxed the nursing home visitation guidelines. And that was something, and you don't want to be so sad and doom and gloom on the show, but that was so heartbreaking to hear stories of people whose loved one was in a nursing home and they couldn't visit or they couldn't see them, and the confusion of a Zoom call with your grandmother or a Skype call with your mom. It was heartbreaking. So I'm glad to see that they've changed it, but I hope and I'm sure that it's done in a safe way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, that obviously we lost over 300 residents in Steuben County.
That's cool.
Confirmed to COVID, and again, we don't do the conspiracy stuff. We use the reliable sources. Our public health office receives the death certificate, so we can confirm that COVID was the cause of death. Anyhow, the nursing homes were absolutely the most heartbreaking, as you said, just because these are individuals that work their entire lives, put so much equity into the community, and unfortunately they were passing alone. I mean, that was the stuff that was really breaking our hearts. But I agree with you. I think now, thankfully, we're in a place with testing, with other protocols, that we can pretty safely, go about our business and have loved ones be able to visit, their family members. Take a rapid test, you're good to go. Wear your mask, you'll be fine.
Which is great, because my heart really did break when I hear those stories. So let's go back to 3 years ago. So it's St. Patrick's Day when everything was shutting down. What was going through your head? Because you had a responsibility. You had to go into work. What did you ever foresee it happening like it all ended up happening?
No. I wish we all had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
I mean, we were still, and everyone we were watching what was happening in Italy, especially, and because more information was coming from Italy than Iran and China at the time, obviously.
Of course.
So we were looking and saying, okay, we need to pause for. We were talking about a month for schools, because we said let's bridge until spring break. Slow things down. Let's see where the spread is and what's happening. But pretty quickly, because there was so little testing back then, and so little testing that we didn't know how widespread it was. Once we saw it in the nursing homes, I can remember the days, and we were tracking it obviously on a daily basis, almost an hourly basis. We had more cases than Onondaga County and Albany County, with multiple times of our population. Unfortunately, upstate, we were getting hit really hard. We couldn't see how it evolved. It was just a really crazy time. Thankfully, our staff and especially folks in the private sector, all aspects of life, but our staff trained for emergencies. They train for pandemics. They do. I can recall it was about 5 years ago that we were hosting mock vaccination at the Bath School, because we use the schools to be able to hold the large vaccination clinics, and we got a lot of blowback about you're giving kids shots all day today. It's, no. This
practice.
They actually get handed an orange. No one is giving you a shot, but they drill on these things, and thank God they did, because our folks were so prepared and so well organized. So I'm very thankful for that. But we learned lessons too. We've done a lot of after action planning. I mean, knock on wood, I don't want to be around for another pandemic in this job. I don't think anyone wants to go through that, but we want to look at what we did well, what we didn't, just like all levels of government should, really.
Oh, I agree 100%. It's just funny to think, when I got my vaccine, it was like going to a rock concert. There's so many people. And you remember the pop-ups, and we're highlighting every week, go here, go there. And then in the beginning, you couldn't get test kits anywhere. And to think of how that all adapted and changed out of necessity.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think we're blessed to be, if it was 100 years ago, like the Spanish flu, who knows what this would have been, because we have a terrific private sector that can bring things to market really, really quick, in terms of test kits, in terms of vaccines, in terms of any other medical supplies and treatments. So the way that we were able to change it so quickly, that we as a country, we as a world were able to respond, I think was a real positive thing. But again, I think we've each learned a lot of lessons. There was such a movement to defund public health, because we hadn't seen a serious public health crisis in a century. And so if you look at the staffing levels of public health departments throughout the state, throughout the nation, they were at the lowest ever. And now I think that's one of the main lessons learned. The state and the feds have kicked a lot of money to local health departments to be able to keep that staffing up to respond to just the things that happen every day.
Yeah.
The normal things that they do, providing vaccinations of of all types to the public, doing education on healthy eating, healthy living, those good things, those proactive things. But that's one of the things that I'm pretty glad of, and the legislature actually accepted another grant of $500,000 that will help support our public health departments. It has to be used to augment either staffing, training, all of those things. So I think we're in a much better place than we were 3 years ago. That's for sure.
Well, it's very interesting to think too. At first, trying to get the vaccine is almost like hitting the lotto, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember one day I'm walking into, I'll say, a big box store, and I hear over the loudspeaker, "COVID shots available." I'm going, "What happened?" You remember those early days? If you got called, it was like, "Oh yeah, we finally get our vaccine." Thank heavens.
Exactly.
It was such a different time, and I remember how eerie it was because I was still working. Remember, and you were calling in the program to update. Market Street. I mean, you could walk down Market Street and not see a soul all day long. It was so eerie.
Yeah, it was a crazy time, and I'm very glad to walk down Market Street and see it super busy. It's good that we're at that point, but yeah, it was just almost surreal to think about, how long ago it was, but it wasn't all that long. It wasn't that long.
No. I mean, 3 years. It seems like a decade. Don't get me wrong, but 3 years ago, in a blink of the eye, so many things have changed. So many people have, I think, gotten smarter in how they deal with their day-to-day life on this. I think so many people got the vaccine and got the booster and started feeling safe again. Now, granted, we still have problems, but I think we've all adapted and learned to essentially live with it because I don't think we have an option.
No, we're definitely in a much better place. I mean, we still keep, obviously, in touch with our hospital partners in particular, because that's the number one thing that every one of us have been the most concerned about, are the seriously ill that need medical treatment. In a hospital setting especially. So we still keep in touch with them to monitor that, to see if there's spikes, if there's, how they're doing, knock on wood. We still have a lot of cases out there because of the at-home testing and because the requirements of the health department for contact tracing have gone away for almost a year now. We don't know really the scope of it, but we know what's happening in the hospitals. So if we see a blip, we can respond to that. But thankfully, it looks like, for most people, especially, the vaccinated boosted or those with natural immunity, that, another round of COVID is certainly an inconvenience. But again, if we can live with it like we do influenza or any other, communicable disease, then things can go on, we'll be okay.
And I know they're saying that we'll probably need a shot about every year. I guess time will tell on that. But I found there were some people that were opposed to the shot. Obviously, like anything is political in society. But I was pretty pleased with how many people ended up getting the shot that I would have thought maybe wouldn't.
Yeah.
I think at some point you just wanted life to get back to normal. And if that was one sacrifice you had to make, people were willing to.
Yeah, I agree. Our vaccination rates certainly weren't the highest amongst the state, but they were far from, the lowest. Yeah. So I thought we were in a very good place too, especially those folks. We saw a lot of hesitation, and I get it. Especially with the child age groups. Parents just
are worried.
A little concerned, and I get that. But for the 18 and over vaccination rates, we were very high. So I agree. I think everyone wanted to be as safe as they could, and like you said, get back to normal, because we went through, the spring and summer of shutdown and that whole mess.
Horrible.
And I think we were all just like, okay, we want to be safe, but let's find a way to do that.
The thing, I remember being at a grocery store and looking around, everybody had the masks on. It felt like you were in in a really bad movie.
Yeah.
Right? Everything seems so surreal at that time, where it's like, is this really happening? I think that's why it has been 3 years, but it does seem like the blink of an eye in a way.
No, it does. You're absolutely right.
So we're going to talk about some other things outside of COVID. I know people are probably sick about talking COVID, but one thing I do want to mention, and I know this was a little while ago, but I had the pleasure of talking with you at the event, and it was so cool to have Dwayne Eddy recognized at the Steuben County Hall of Fame. That was such a neat experience to have him send in that video. I'll have to see if I can find that and play it on the show, because I know, and I want to tell this to you, and you can pass it along. He was so proud when I sent that, and they called me. Him and his wife Deed called me and said this is the most amazing thing, and it's hanging up in their house. And you think of a guy who won that many awards throughout his life being that proud.
No, absolutely, and credit to you, because you were the strongest advocate here locally for that, and that's what you need for those kind of recognition of special people, and he certainly is one. So that was such a cool event. I mean, that was we're kind of in the middle of COVID, right after COVID,
Yeah.
but we still were able to have the in person, and obviously Mr. Eddie sent the video.
great
But
video, yeah.
man, that was so cool. And the Steuben County Hall of Fame is a great way. We're actually accepting applications now. Check out the county website if you know of. Doesn't have to be someone who was born in Steuben County, but someone who spent a good amount of time in Steuben County and has brought credit to the county. The Hall of Fame is a great way to do that. So kudos to you, and that was a really
fun.
cool event.
That was really fun. I will say that people should join the Steuben County Hall of Fame, or the Historic Society, excuse me, because they sent out a quarterly, almost like a book.
Yeah.
And it's, boy, do they do their research.
Yeah, they do a phenomenal job between the Historic Society, Kirk House and his crew, and our county historian helps out, Emily Sims. She does a phenomenal job. And yeah, I'm a history nerd,
Yeah,
but
me too.
I really like that stuff, especially the local history. But man, some of the stuff that you learn,
You have no idea.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
And like I said, I think it's like $25 or something a year, and you get that. I look forward to seeing that in my mailbox.
Yeah,
they
that's
do a
awesome.
great job. So let's take a short break. When we come back, more issues with Steuben County. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview with Jack Wheeler. We'll be right back. This is my problem. I get chatting during the commercial. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview, and we're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and we're being joined by Jack Wheeler. Let me turn down the music. So enough about COVID, right? We always we all want to forget about those days. But I wanted to talk a little bit because we had Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on the program on Friday, and we talked a little bit about the budget proposals. I was wondering what you were seeing from the county level of how this is going to affect us in Steuben County.
Yeah, honestly, I've been with the county for 15 years now, and this is the single worst budget
Is that right?
that we've seen come from Albany. And it's, to me, again, we've talked about this before. I'm county manager, not executive.
Exactly.
I'm not elected, so I'm apolitical, work for Democrats and Republicans. So not political statements, but, it's disappointing that a governor who comes from local government would propose, such a damaging budget, especially for counties. And it largely revolves around Medicaid. Now, it's a very complicated issue, but to break it down, not arguing the benefits of the Medicaid program, it's super needed. Folks need that sort of help, especially our seniors. Most of the spend that we have in Steuben County is actually for long-term care and for seniors. So it's not, necessarily indigent individuals. It really is, a lot of the spend is because nursing homes, long-term care,
Right.
health aides are very, very expensive. New York is one of the only states in the nation where local government pay anything for the Medicaid program. Certainly we pay the most. Counties in New York State pay about 20% of the Medicaid bill. And the governor is proposing, like any other program, there's federal aid that comes through for states or localities. The governor is proposing to intercept all of that federal aid, which is a portion of that 20% is due to us to offset costs that we have had. She's proposing to keep that. That's about $600 million statewide in this current year. Next year, statewide, it'd be about $2.5 billion. We're looking at a loss in 22 or 23, 24, because the state fiscal year is different. But we're looking at a loss in Steuben County of $2.5 million, which is just...
You got to make it up somewhere.
Yeah, we do. That would equate to a 5% property tax increase. Now, I don't... Again, we have a tax cap. The legislature has held the line on taxes. I don't see that changing, but the fact is that those funds, according to federal law in our view, are rightfully due to us. We keep them as receivables on our balance sheet because we have been told by the state that you are going to receive these funds. It's really frustrating because what we're hearing from Albany, what we're hearing from the governor's office is your sales tax is doing fine, so financially you're okay, and we're saying, well, your sales tax is doing fine too, so why would you intercept that? If you look at where the spending priorities are, obviously for the Medicaid program, the providers need boosts to keep up with costs and things like that. So no one's arguing that. But the state controls the programs. They're the ones that can find the efficiencies. Instead of working to find those efficiencies, they're just going to take money that was due to the counties. And New York City alone, you're talking billions of dollars that New York City is going to lose and have to find either cuts in services or other ways to raise revenue, which is just really, really disappointing. The Association of Counties is fighting it super hard. Assemblyman Palmisano, Senator O'Mara, they're all on our side. But the problem is the governor is just not backing down off of this and saying, she made a crazy statement that, well, if counties can't absorb this and county taxes have to go up, the schools, they're getting more money so they can cut their taxes. Well, the counties don't control schools. We can't say that. You can't rely upon that. So honestly, it's a really devastating budget. We're really pushing to not have that happen. Again, we don't want to do the doom and gloom that there's going to be cuts in services or anything, but there are many initiatives that we can talk about that our legislature has invested heavily in. Driving around the county, we have the third largest road miles of any county in New York State, and we want to keep those beautiful. We want to keep those up to date, and we know our residents depend upon that. But that's a discretionary program. So anytime the state passes these burdens down to us, we have to look at the local services that our residents really love and depend upon to be able to manage that. So it's a challenge.
It's interesting that she can just make that decision, because it sounds to me like this money is earmarked for a specific area. So to just say, never mind, good luck, that doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem right. And, they complain when the federal government does that to them, but then they turn around and they do that to a lower level of government, which is a county. It was shocking to see that, because the state actually, from a financial perspective, in the short term, in the 3 to 5 years, actually is in pretty good fiscal shape, like a lot of us, because we received federal funds, during COVID to be able to help balance budgets and not, put people out of work or not raise taxes, those sort of things. So we don't think that it's necessary. And, I think if this does go through, I don't think that's the end of it, because our interpretation of that language in the federal bills, which dictate how those federal funds are passed through, really indicate that if a county pays 20%, then whatever reimbursement is given by the federal government, we should get 20% of that. It's pretty simple.
So it sounds like this is going to be a nightmare, really.
It really is.
Now, what you said, the legislature is speaking out against this?
Yeah, our legislature very strongly has taken a stand. Our state partners here, our local electeds, really have taken a strong stand as well. And so our voice is being heard, but it's not like counties have a strong constituency. Right. We have some loud voices, and we'll scream and yell, and we'll continue to do that. But the problem, the way that an extra $3 billion in the governor's budget is going to education. And again, not here to argue that education isn't in need of additional funds, but one of the ways she's paying for that is to take the money from the counties.
It doesn't make any sense.
Not the way to balance a budget.
No. We got to take a short break. Can you stay with me through one more break?
Sure.
All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And this is the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview with Jack Wheeler. Stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we're being joined this morning by Steuben County Manager Jack Wheeler on the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview. So we talked a little bit about the budget, and we talked about the bad part of the budget. Yeah. Is there anything good you're seeing?
Yeah, so the investments that the governor is proposing, and it looks like both houses of the legislature are on board with, is funding for mental health.
Okay. And
we are seeing it, all aspects, whether it be mental health, substance use disorder. We're seeing it, in public safety. It's hitting every aspect of life. And the investments that New York State has made, over the past 10 years is a pittance in comparison to what is really needed. We work with our hospital partners all the time, and we're hearing that, someone who is seriously mental ill, who needs a bed to be able to receive treatment in an inpatient setting, whether it be for substance use or for mental health needs, sometimes they're waiting weeks for a bed, and that's just not right. So the governor is proposing to add more mental health beds, which is a great thing, and to kick more funding to these providers. This is coupled with the opioid settlements that Steuben County, along with I think every county in New York State, most counties in the nation, were part of the lawsuits against Purdue and the other large pharmaceutical companies. And the funding that we receive is restricted to be used for mental health and substance use disorder treatment. So that means an expansion of services. We're working through that right now, but the county legislature has already awarded about $500,000 in those settlement funds to providers to be able to add staff, social workers, psychologists, peer counselors is a big thing. People who have been through those struggles and can help someone navigate that. And then also one of the cool initiatives that we're working on, and it was piloted in the Hornell area, is a closer partnership between law enforcement and mental health providers, so that when someone's having an issue, and if it's kind of crossing that line between, is this criminal, or what's driving this, is it drugs, alcohol, something like that, mental health, it's to connect those people with a resource in the mental health or substance use disorder world before it becomes a major criminal issue. So, the goal is to kind of meet people where they are, get more boots on the ground. And so in terms of the good thing that's happening, I mean, it's a sad statement to say that those things are so needed, but it looks like both the state and then through some of the settlements, you're going to see more mental health resources here, and I think that's a great thing.
Going back to when we originally started talking about COVID, it seems like so many people, unfortunately, fell into this addiction, and it's obviously a major story in our area, but throughout the state and throughout the country.
Yeah, the need has skyrocketed, as you said, and you're 100% right. What we're seeing in our substance abuse clinics, the numbers are at an all-time high. But what we're seeing for people who are, coming out of COVID again, between depression, anxiety, other mental health issues, people are in need of services. And now at a time with this hiring crisis that we're all facing, we're competing for a lot of the same assets and resources in terms of providers, but, with additional money, with additional funds, it makes things a little bit easier. So the county is hiring more folks. If there are social workers, psychologists, peer counselors,
give Jack a call.
Yeah, please do, because we're hiring.
Yeah, great. I'm going to take one more short break, and then you stay with us. All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And this is the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview with Steuben County Manager Jack Wheeler. Just before we wrap up, Jack, I want to talk a little bit, because we've been talking about the budget. Tell us about the short-term rental tax and how that affects us.
Yeah, so in Steuben County, it was kind of a mired mess for a little bit in terms of short-term rentals. As everyone knows, between Airbnb, VRBO, other renters, that market has just proliferated. And we're thankful for the county that we have in terms of the Corning area, Keuka Lake, Bath, Hornell. I mean, we have a lot of really cool places that people want to visit, but the number of short-term rentals has skyrocketed in terms of inventory. We've had a collection agreement with Airbnb for essentially your occupancy tax. So you or I rent anywhere in this country, you're going to pay an occupancy tax on a short-term rental or a hotel. It just is what it is. That money goes back to tourism in most places, certainly here in Steuben County. We've had an agreement with Airbnb for 5 years. We've tried to reach out to VRBO, HomeAway, the rest, to say, are you going to collect this 4% tax? Because people who rent through Airbnb are, their renters are paying 4% more. So you have an inequity. Then we hear from the hotel owners and the bed and breakfast owners that are saying, you have a large scale of this market for short-term rentals that aren't paying an occupancy tax, so they're undercutting our prices. And we heard a lot of feedback over the past few years. Our legislature just updated our local law, so anyone who rents short-term, and we want to let people know this, we're going to do PRs, so we'll get you your press releases and things, but there will be a requirement to collect a 4% tax for all short-term rentals, and that's defined as 30 days or less. Again, it's not a tax increase, it's just leveling the playing field, because if you went through Airbnb, it was being collected. If you didn't, it's not. So, and all of that money goes back to promote tourism. So our Conference and Visitors Bureau, Finger Lakes Wine Country, those are the ones that get the funds to promote the area to get more people back here. So it's not like the county's filling its coffers. It's going right back into tourism promotion.
Great. Jack, I can't believe it, but we're out of time. I can't thank you enough for being on the program. I don't think we have to talk once a week like the old days, but I hope that we can have you on again soon.
Anytime. Thank you, Frank.
All right, great. This has been the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Thanks again to Jack Wheeler, Steuben County Manager, for being our guest this morning. Thank you to everybody who sent in questions, had questions for any of our guests. Tomorrow we'll be speaking with Elisa and Sylvia from ASSE, which stands for, I don't know where the A comes from. I didn't come up with this, but International Student Exchange Program. So you can learn how you can house international student. An amazing opportunity for them to get to see America, an amazing opportunity for you as well. And on Wednesday, we will talk with Chemung County Executive Chris Moss. And then on Thursday, Assemblyman Chris Friend. That's where we stand so far this week. Thank you again for everybody who joined us and who have been writing me. Let me see that. There we go. The contact information. One that we received just the other day, if I can pop it up. Let me see. There we go. It's great to see you on the air. Thanks, Joe. I already knew you were a great interviewer. Wow. Hey, that's very nice. Enjoy the Christine Frizzle interview. She's full of enthusiasm. You're so genuine with people. Great job. I swear I'm not just reading the really nice one and kind ones. That's just all we receive. Whatever that says about the show, being a little braggadocious there. But no, I do appreciate that. Thank you so much for that comment. And you can, again, contact me there if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Like I said, we have many special guests coming up this week, so you can get those questions there. And as I keep saying, as we get near election season, a lot of them are local contests this year. I would love to hear from you. If you are a candidate, come on the program. This is an opportunity for you to reach the voters, reach your potential constituents, so you can reach me there anytime, and we'll try to get something set up. We do have a couple special guests that we're going to have later on in the week, so you may want to, please do tune in. So this is Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from Market Street. And did you see earlier I got a wave? It was during the interview, so we have our wave counter there on the bottom of the screen. And we were at 7 o'clock, not as many people walking by as we maybe originally thought. But we're going to keep that up there because I like it when people wave to us here in the studio, because we're right on Market Street, broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. Beautiful Market Street. It's nice to see everybody walking and getting their exercise in. So one other thing I mentioned earlier, let me go to the browser. And I didn't really get to highlight too much because Jack came in. But I do find this very interesting that China is going to try to be the peacemaker, if you will, between Russia and Ukraine. Again, I believe that's them trying to signal, hey, look, we did what you guys couldn't do. And that's a little bit troubling because that is another move towards their ideal goal, their goal, not mine, their goal of becoming a superpower. Now, one other story I wanted to get to before we ran out of time. Let me see if I can move my mouse there. This is interesting. I didn't realize there was a change, but since we were talking New York politics, the Democrat James Skoufis is attempting to remove Cuomo's legacy from the state flag. He added, while he was governor, E pluribus unum on the bottom. Before it was just, as you see, Excelsior. Kind of one of those oddball headlines, but we'll see where that goes. I guess kind of to snub the former governor or erase his quote-unquote legacy. I know there's been talks about renaming the Cuomo Bridge in New York City that was named after his father. And there's one other New York issue. Nope, I'm out of time. Have a great day, everyone. This has been Frankly Speaking. Please join us tomorrow at 7 a.m. right here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.